Okay, this is the last section of this chapter. It's chapter 6.7. This is about how are we going to solve the equation by factoring. Okay, so first of all, do some review. Zero product rules. So remember that any number multiplied 0, it can be any number. What will be the result? 0, right? That's what we learned. Anything multiplied 0 is equal to 0. So if we have a two number multiplied together is equal to 0, that tells you what? That tells that either x equals to 0 because 0 multiplied y is equal to 0, or y is equal to 0 because x times 0 is equals to 0. So we're going to use this to solve our equation. For example, we have 2x minus 3 times 5x plus 1 equals to 0. Look, there's two factors multiplied together equals to 0. That means this factor, either 2x minus 3 equals to 0 or 5x plus 1 is equals to 0. So that we can solve 0. 2x is equal to 3. X, we divide 2 on both sides. X is equal to 3/2. And then we subtract 1 on both sides. We have 5x equal to negative 1, divide by 5. On both sides, we have x equals to 1/5, negative 1/5. So here will be the solution. Okay, so now we will combine what we learned before. We turn our equation, first of all, we turn our equation into some factor form. And then by using the zero product rule, we can solve our x. So for example, we have 4x squared plus x minus 3 equals to 0. First of all, what do you see? 3 terms, and they're not multiply each other, right? So now what we can do is we convert this part x as what? As factor. So we use our cross multiply method. We have 2x squared, 2x times negative 3. You have a two combination. Either you can only have one combination, 1 and 3, right? Because 1 times 3 is equal to 3. But since it's negative, you can either have negative 1 and positive 3 or positive 1 and negative 3. Since here is a positive, so that means we're looking something positive is in a bigger number. So I have positive 3 and negative 1. Okay, cross multiply, we have what? Negative 2x at 6x, which is not equals to x. Don't equal to our second term, though, so that means we need to try something else, right? Remember, negative 3, the only combination that we can find is 3 and negative 1, so that means we can try another way to factor 4x squared. We can try s and 4x, so that we have a negative 1 and 3. Okay, so we cross multiply, we have negative 4x and then plus 3x, which is equals to negative x. Oops, if you take a look at our x and negative x, they're the opposite sides, right? This is close. So how can we do to change these? What we can do is change the sign. Positive 1 and negative 3. Now we do it again. So I have what? Negative 3x plus 4x, which is equals to our x. This is the combination we're looking for. And then we group this together and group this together. So that means the left side of this equation, we can rewrite it as x plus 1 times 4x minus 3 is equals to 0. So by our zero product rule, we have what? Either 4x minus 3 equals to 0 or s plus 1 equals to 0, and then we solve for x. So I have what? 4s equals to 3s divided by 4 on both sides with 3/4. And then for here, we have what? X equals to -1. So this is our solution. On your quiz or on your test, I want you to circle your answer for me, please. Thank you. Okay. Example. So we need to note that the zero product rules, why we call it zero product rules, must apply to the equation equals to 0. Why I say that? Because think about if two number x times y is equals to 1, what happens? They have multiple millions of combinations, such as you can have 1/2 times 2 is equal to 1, x can equal to 1/2, x can equal y, y can equal to 2. Or we have 1/5 times 5, which means x can equal to 1/5 times 5 is equal to 1, so that means x equal to 1/5, y is equal to 5. Or we have 100 times 100 still equals to 1, so s, y have a multiple option if this is not equals to 0. Only when x times y equals to 0, we will have the answer either x equal to 0 or y equals to 0. Okay, so what if our equation like this is not equal to 0? We have x squared equals to 8x minus 5. So look, this is not equals to 0. Well, what we can do is we manipulate the terms and then set the equation equals to 0 by moving the terms, such as so what we can do is we add 5 on both sides. So we will have x squared plus 5 equals to 8x. And then we subtract 8x on both sides. We have x squared minus 8x plus 5 equals to 8x minus 8x is 0. Now the equation is equal to 0. That means we can apply the zero product rules. So the first step is we need to factor this part. Use what? 3 terms, we use AC method since the first term's coefficient is equal to 1. We use AC method. So we want two number multiplied to equals to 5, and two number that add them together equals to -8x. So now, which two number? Oh, I'm sorry. This means 15. I was trying to do 15. Okay, so let's see. 15, I can separate into 5 and this 3, right? So 5 times 3 is equals to 15, but 5 as 3 is equals to 8, not -8. So how can we turn this into negative? Remember, negative times negative is equal to a positive number. So that means instead of 5 times 3 equals to 15, we can use -3 times -5 is equal to +15, and then -5 at -3 is equal to -8. So here's the number we're looking for. S minus 5 times S minus 3 equals to 0. Now we apply the zero product rules, which is S minus 5 equals to 0, or s minus 3 equals to 0. So I have x equals to 5 or s equals to 3. Well, how do you know that this is the correct answer? What you can do is you plug in s equal to 5 and s equal to 3 to check on your scratch paper. So look, we bring this back to our original function. Let's do s equal to 5 first. So I have a 5 squared equals to 8 times 5 minus 15. So I have a 5 squared equals to 14 minus 15, which is 25, equals to 25. So that means x equal to 5 is our solution. Now let's check s equal to 3 if this is our solution. So with 3 squared, we don't know is this equals to 8 times 3 minus 15. 3 squared is equal to 9. 8 times 3 is 25 minus 15, which is equals to 9. So that means, hey, x equal to 5 or x equal to 3 is our solution. Okay, so next is this. Well, we have x minus 7, x plus 3 equals to 9. Well, this is not equals to 0, right? So that means we can apply to our zero product rules. The first step is we want to turn this into what? Negative 9, I'm sorry. We want to turn this into a 0. What you can do is you can FOIL the equation first. Remember FOIL? First term times the first term, outer term times the outer term, inside term times the inside term, L is the last term times the last term. So I have what? X squared plus 3x minus 7x minus 21 equals to negative 9. And then I want to move the negative 9 to the left side by adding 9 on both sides. So I have x squared plus 3x minus 7x minus 21 at 9 equals to 0. And then I combine the like terms together. So I will have what? X squared minus 4x minus 12 equals to 0. Now they have 3 terms. And this equation also equals to 0. So that means we can use our zero product rules. Since it's 3 terms, we will use the AC method. Okay, so we want 2 numbers multiplied together equal to negative 12 and 2 numbers subtract together, add together is equal to negative 4. So negative 12 we will have negative 6 times 2, which is equal to negative 12. Negative 6 add 2 is equal to negative 4. So that means negative 6 and 2 is the number we're looking for. So that means the equation factor as negative x minus 6 times x plus 2 equals to 0. Apply zero product rules, which is x minus 6 equals to 0 or x plus 2 equals to 0. So our x is equals to 6 or x equals to negative 2. Good? Okay, what if we have something that a little bit more complicated? 3x squared plus 4x minus 5 equals to 7x squared plus 4x minus 14. We want to set the equation equals to 0. What can we do? We want to move all the terms to the left. So we subtract 7x squared on both sides. And then we want to subtract 4x on both sides. We also want to add 14 on both sides. So our right side is equal to 0. So the next step is we want to combine the like terms. So this is equal to what? Negative 4x squared. 4x minus 4x is equal to 0. And then negative 5 at 4 is equal to 8. So this is 0. Well, I'm not used to a negative sign in front of me. What can we do? We can switch it, right? Because negative 4x squared plus 9, you can write it as 9 minus negative 4x squared. So now we have two terms. What we can use, since this is not cubed, so that means we can use the sum of the cubes. While you see a square, that means we can use the differences of a square with the square root of what? 9, I can write it as 3 squared. 4x squared, I can write it as 2s squared. So now we have the two square roots, which is 3 and 2x. So that means this is the factor. And then we apply the zero product rules, which is 3 minus 2x equals to 0, or 3 plus 2x equals to 0. So 3 minus 2x, we add 3, subtracts 3 on both sides. We have negative 2x equals to negative 3, and then divide by negative 2, we have x equals to negative 3 divided by negative 2. So x is equal to positive 3/2. So for this one, we subtract 3 on both sides. We have 2s equals to negative 3. Divide by 2, we have a negative 3 over 2. So this would be our answer. Circle it, circle it, circle all of the answers. Okay, so sometimes, so for the previous example, we have x have two solutions, right? Sometimes x only have one solution. So for example, I have 4x squared equals to 12 minus 9, 12x, sorry. And then we want to move all the terms to the left first. So I have a 4x squared minus 12x plus 9 equals to 0. So 3 terms. What you can use? Well, either the perfect square one, or you can use cross multiply. Okay, so these just fit for the perfect square one. Because if you remember the perfect square, which is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared is equal to a plus b squared, plus or minus, plus or minus. Okay, so if you look at this one, you can write it as what? 2x squared minus 2 times 2x. 12x divided by 4x is equal to what? It's 3, right? And then plus 3 squared, which is equal to 0. So that we find our a and b, which is 2x plus 3 minus, equals to 0. If you're not familiar with the perfect square one, use the cross multiply, you will get to the same answer. Okay, so in here, what's next? Think about what number squares is equal to 0. Think. 0 squared is equal to 0. You can find another number. So that means these terms, I have the 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. So our x is going to equal to you plus 3 on both sides and then divide by 2, which is 3/2. So you only have one solution. Okay, So it's really important, like our other strategy, like the strategy that I taught earlier today, we always want to factor out the greatest common factor first, if they have any. So for example, I have 4x squared equals to ax. So we move the terms with 4x squared minus ax, which is equal to 0. What's the greatest common factor? It's 4x, right? So now I factor the 4x, I have x minus 2 is equal to 0. So now you already see two factors. One is x minus 2, and then since it's times 4x, so that means we can apply to our what? Zero product rules. In here, so I have 4x equals to 0, or x minus 2 equals to 0. So 4x equals to 0, so that means x is equals to 0, and then or x equals to 2. So this will be the answer. Okay, another example. We have a 2x cubed minus 40x plus 24x equals to 0. So I want to factor the greatest common factor first, which is 2x cubed minus 14x plus 2x, which is what? 2x. So I factor this part out, I have what? X squared minus 7x plus 12 equals to 0. And then look at the parentheses. It has 3 terms. And the coefficient is equal to 1. So that means we're going to use AC method. Okay, we want two number multiply to get 12, and then two number, they add them together to get -7. So since they have a negative, it has to be, the two number has to be a negative number, because negative times negative equals to a positive 12. So that means -3 times -4 is equal to 12. Also, -3 add -4 is equal to 7. So that means -3 and -4 is the number that we're looking for. So we have x minus 4 times s minus 3 equals to 0. Okay, we are totally focused on the parentheses, right? But don't forget there's a 2x. We factor out this is also part of the equation, so don't left that. Okay, so by the zero product rule, we have 2x equal to 0, or x minus 4 equals to 0, or s minus 3 equals to 0. So our x is equal to 0, or s equals to 4, or x equal to 3. Circle your answer. Okay, last example. 6x squared plus 21x minus 27 equals to 0. We factor the greatest common factor first, which is in our case is 3. We have 3 times 2x squared plus 7x minus 9 equals to 0. Okay, since it's 3 terms. So, and the first coefficient is not equal to 1, so that means we need to use the cross multiply. 2x, we only have one combination, which is 2x and x, because 2x times x is equal to 2x squared, -9. Since we look in something that's positive, so we should have what? A positive number and then a small negative number. So you cross multiply, you have a 2x times -1, you have a -2x at 9x, which is positive 7x. This is what we're looking for, right? So that means the combination will be 2x at 9 and then x subtract 1. Now we can apply the zero product rules. So look, so you know that's 3 multiply is one of the factor. So would you just say, hey, we know that these two terms is equal to 0, which is 2s plus 9 equals to 0, or s minus 1 equals to 0. So okay, look at 3. Would you say 3 equals to 0? That's not true, right? So that means we can just ignore that term. Okay, so that means we just focus on these two terms, whoever with the variable inside. So this is a little bit different than the previous example in here, because the previous example is you have 2 times x. So 2 times x equals to 0, which means still possible if x equals to 0. But in here, for sure, 3 in, I don't know what, in maybe in some, in our universe, 3 is not equal to 0. So that means we need to drop that factor. So I have 2x plus 9 equal to 0. So our 2x is equal to negative 9. X is equal to negative 9 half. First solution. And then the second solution is x equals to 1. Okay. So that's it for today. So next week we will have a test, which is a 2-hour test, 2.5 hour test. And we will have a review first. Okay. So that's it for today. Don't forget the homework.